All right, now underneath the three content boxes that you and I just went and created, and by the way, I hope you enjoyed that. A couple of neat tricks there for you. But underneath these three boxes, we want to create a news feed area. Okay, so basically a headline and then a small paragraph of text, and we'll have four of these guys. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create the headline for the first news feed item. So I'm going to go and grab my text tool out of the toolbox. So look for your text tool there over inside your toolbox on the left-hand side. And what I'm going to do with this, guy, is I'm just going to single click down beneath my three content boxes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in article title. Okay, now my text is really small. He is in there, but pretty tough to see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw on some quick text formatting onto this guy. So I'm going to go and grab my black arrow tool, and that selects that tiny type object or text object. Let me zoom in a little bit so we can see this guy a little bit better. He is in there. And what I'm going to do now is I want to apply some text formatting, as I say, to this guy. So a few different ways that we can do this. You can head to the options bar across the top once again and make use of your character flyout. That's perfectly fine. Or you can go to Window, and then all the way down towards the bottom, we have type, and then over to character. And that will bring up the actual character palette. Okay, it's entirely up to you. It doesn't really matter which way you go. Now, the font that I want to use, you can certainly make use of different settings if you want. I'm going to use a font called Georgia. So what you can do is you can either pop open the font drop-down menu here and go and find the font that you want to work with. But as you can see, that menu is huge depending on the number of fonts that you have installed. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm simply going to type in the name of the font that I want to use, Georgia, and then hit enter on my keyboard, and that'll lock in that font for me. Okay, so now we have Georgia applied to that text. And the other thing that I want to do is I want to crank up the size of this text. I'm going to change the size to 30 points rather than just 12. There we go. Now I can see my text. And let's see, I want to make this bold as well. Instead of regular, I'm going to switch this out to bold. There we go, something like that. Okay? All right, there we go, something like this. If you really want to be particular, what you could do is you could select your text object, and then using your transform panel, you could set his X value to 10 as well, so that he's lined up perfectly with that content box just above, something like this. That's entirely up to you, though. That gets really, really particular. Okay, so there's the article title. Let me just zoom out just a little bit. Now what I want to do is I want to get a placeholder paragraph of text underneath this article title. And I'm going to make use of what's referred to as lorem ipsum. This is just some dummy placeholder text that's used quite a bit by designers and developers until we actually have the real text that we want to use. And I have some lorem ipsum text for us. Give me a second here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to head all the way down to my desktop and then into my work files folder. And inside my work files folder, we have a file called lorem.txt. Go ahead and open this guy up. Okay, and there's our placeholder text. So I'm going to grab this lorem placeholder text, select it all there, and copy it. Control or Command C on your keyboard. And then head back on over to Illustrator. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my type tool once again from the toolbox there on the left-hand side. But this time, rather than single clicking as we did with the article title, this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag out. And this is going to create a text box or a text frame for us. Okay, something like this. All right, now go ahead and paste, Control or Command V. And there's our dummy text, our lorem text inside our wireframe layout. Now, as you can see, it took on the same text formatting that you and I had set for the article title, which is really no good. So here's what I'm going to do to fix this. I'm going to hit Control or Command A on my keyboard, and that will select all of the text inside that text frame that you and I just created. And I'm going to head back to my character palette here. And I'm going to change the font to a font called Verdana. Okay, go ahead and hit enter. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to change his size from 30 down to maybe about 15. I'm going to try 15 there. And I'm also going to switch the style from bold back to regular. There we go, something like that. I think that's a little bit better. Okay, there we go. Now, you might want to take a moment and just kind of position and size your text frame there a little bit. What we could do, once again, if we wanted to be really precise, is we could set the X position on this text frame to 10. There we go, something like this. And then the other thing that we could do is we could set the width. So we have an overall width of 960 with a gap of 10 pixels of space on the left and also a gap of 10 pixels over on the right. So what we could do is we could go 960 subtract 10 subtract 10. So that would be 940, right? So I could come in here to the width and simply set the width there, or force the width to 940 pixels, just like that. All right. So we're looking really good here. Give me a second. I'm just going to nudge this up just a little bit, maybe something like that. There we go. I'm going to close out of my character panel. And then last but not least, the last thing that we're going to do here is I'm going to select both the article title and the placeholder text just beneath them there. Once again, just by clicking and dragging, just by touching each of those objects by clicking and dragging, I'm going to hold down Alt or Option, and I'm going to click and drag out, and simultaneously I'll throw in Shift there to duplicate this guy out, just like that. And then check this out. This is a really cool trick. We need 2 more of these, right? We wanted a total of 4. Try hitting Controller Command D on your keyboard, D for duplicate. And what that will do is that will duplicate out the last command that you had specified there. Okay, so now we wind up with 4 of these guys. Now, what I'm going to do on my side, at least, this is going to take a little bit of time here, is I just want to space these out a little bit. When I copied them out, I really didn't give myself enough space. As a matter of fact, what I could do is I could undo a bunch of times here, Controller Command Z on my keyboard, and then try this duplicating it one more time. Option, throwing in Shift, and then giving myself a little bit of extra space between each of these guys. And then the Controller Command D on my keyboard. There we go, maybe something like that, just to space them out a little bit more. All right, you can fiddle around with that if you like. There we go, there's our news feed. We're almost done. We only have the footer left to do, and then we can move on to the next wireframe layout.